What's up YouTube, and welcome to another week of fantasy success. Before I start, I should probably mention that sadly not every pick I make is destined to make it into the video. I try to keep the videos below 8 minutes so they remain watchable, and it's a fact of life that there's just some things you always have to skip. Unlike a parent asked to name their favourite child, I can honestly say that the fact a player didn't make it into the video doesn't make him a lesser pick. It just means I have more banter for other players. All picks, not just the ones in the video, are put into the description below every week. Now for what you all came here for, the start... Are you kidding me? You want some pepper and paprika with all that salt? This week I bet my editor in head-to-head, and apparently he still hasn't gotten over it. Anyway, starts and sits for Gameweek 16. First up is Harry Kane. It might seem like I'm recommending him every week, and that's because I am. When he isn't off making girls cry at how beautiful his relationship is, fighting bad guys in low-quality film, and just generally being a really nice guy, Kane is putting up shot totals that exceed every other striker in the Premier League. The fact he's taken 59 shots and still maintains 63% shot accuracy gives me goosebumps, and it gives him an expected 0.78 goals a game. Yes, he came up a big short in the game against Chelsea and West Brom, but Newcastle have conceded 18 goals in just 7 away games, and more importantly are the worst team in the Premier League against strikers, giving up an average of 5 points in goals and assists per game. If you remain a believer and stay with him this week, he could just become your team's Nova Kane. Next up is Tottenham's defense. Newcastle have scored 3 goals in 7 away games. That is less than half a goal a game. They're like that one guy who goes away on business and actually stays faithful to his wife. Eating ain't cheating, bro. It's not that the opportunities haven't been there either. Swansea, Sunderland and Bournemouth's defenders have opened their legs to pretty much every other team this season. For some reason, they just can't bring themselves to finish without the ones they love giving them a hand. Meanwhile, Tottenham aren't letting anyone get past them at the lane, conceding more than 1 goal at home for the only time when Juve made them into marmalade in week 2. Moving on to which Tottenham defender you should buy before my references get too esoteric. Danny Rose will be a thorn in Newcastle's right side, and even cheaper is Luke Carwalker. Get it? Because he wears white. I don't know Star Wars well enough to make a better reference there, because I'm not a nerd. Next up is Arsenal's defense. The time has finally come to play a defense who are one of the best in the league until they lost their Coquelin. Arsenal have looked far from solid at the back, having conceded 1.5 goals per away game without him. But against Aston Villa, that really doesn't matter, you know? Aston Villa suck at home, with only 5 goals in 7 games, even Vivaldi players they acquired from League One in the summer. In terms of buying into the side, Bellerin has won a lot of accolades, but you're better off going cheaper and signing 5.3 mil Mertesacker. Still don't know how I strung that one together. Yeah, bo! Next up, Stoke City defense. Since the return of their star defender from his leading role in British sitcom Curb Stomp Your Enthusiasm, Stoke have conceded only 2 goals in 5 games, both of which came when Shawcross wasn't even on the pitch. Cheers, Jeff. With first-choice centre-back pairing Philip Volscheid and Ryan Seashells on the Sea Shawcross, Stoke's defence is unbreakable, and unlike the show I just referenced, they aren't set to lose their slot anytime soon. On top of that, they play a West Ham side who don't have their first, second, or third most dangerous offensive players, as just when we were all starting to get Salman Weller, attacking midfielder Manuel Lanzini was cruelly taken from us until mid-January. At this stage, it looks like even Osmosis Jones will be sitting out this week, so it's difficult to tell where the chances are coming from. Moving on to our balls deep picks. For those who aren't aware, a balls deep pick is a play made by those who have so much testosterone and courage that it edges on stupidity. Essentially, you're playing Russian roulette with your FPL team either because you need a Hail Mary, you aren't satisfied unless you're so far ahead of the rest of your league that everyone else gives up, or you just feel like you need to show your massive kahunas to everyone in the world, which I think is officially called sitting in gum. These aren't the kind of moves that a sane person would make, but how many TV shows do they make about people that are actually sane? And what's the deal with aeroplane food? First balls deep pick is Arouna Kone. Everyone will captain Lukaku this week, but if you want to ruin a good week for your opponent, you'll pick up Kone against Norwich. Andre Wisdom's defending is about as good as his ability to follow the Google Maps directions to his own stadium, and as a result, Norwich are the second worst team against the left wing, giving up an average of 3.8 points in goals and assists per game. Kone's underlying stats are solid anyway, with a shot accuracy of 58% leading to an expected 0.48 goals per game. He may not be in the best of form, but does good form ever really get you anywhere? Next up is Aaron Ramsey. I barely ever recommend central midfielders because they play so far back, but much like the janitor from Scrubs, Villa look really shit in the middle. Aston Villa give up the most points of any team to central midfielders with 1.8 points of goals and assists per game. In addition, while he started slow this season, last week we saw Aaron's game evolve to show he could be an asset later on in the season. His goal and assist against Sunderland finally bringing him closer to his expected 0.46 goals per game. At 8 mil he is expensive, but if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. And if your balls are big enough that you actually use our balls deep plays, a little heat can't give you more testicular cancer than you already have. Next up's Gary Cahill and Kurt Zouma. He might be big, slow, and sound like a pussy, but Gary Cahill is a legitimate option this week, as his centre-back partner Kurt Zouma. Why would an out-of-form Chelsea be able to keep Leicester City quiet for the first time all season? The answer is, probably won't. 2 goals conceded in their last 4 games is promising though, but they are facing a guy who's turning extra time into clobbering time. The reason Cahill and Zouma have been picked is that while the whiz of the time Leicester are strong defensively, they're bizarrely bad against defending centre-backs and free kicks and corners. In fact, Leicester lead the league in goals and assists given up to centre-backs, and if they show the same courtesy to Chelsea's defenders, they could get you a lot of points. First sit is Manchester United defence. In the biggest collapse since the Greek economy, Manchester United lost 3-2 to Wolfsburg in the Champions League to get knocked into the Europa League. More importantly, during the game they somehow got injuries to both Matteo Darmian and Chris Smalling. Smalling was able to play through his injury for the last 15 minutes, but that was only because Van Gaal had already used his 3 substitutes, and it was clear he was still afflicted with a limp. I'm not going to write Manchester United off purely because they're using backups, but I am going to write them off because they're an awful away defensive record. 9 goals conceded in 8 away games isn't encouraging, and Bournemouth are hardly Villa. Unlike Marko and Fellaini against Wolfsburg, I'm going to pass. Next up is Riyad Mahrez. This is one of those picks where my only option is to remember the life philosophy of Mac Miller, who I'm honestly getting kind of scared of given just how accurate the song Donald Trump has actually been. Before you go complaining that I'm telling you to sit a player who just scored a hat-trick, check out my reasoning. As I mentioned earlier, Chelsea are playing like shit but maintaining strong defensive form, with 2 conceded in their last 4 games. More importantly, despite putting everyone on their roster in the firing line at left back, including winger Kennedy, Chelsea have conceded the 5th lowest points to right wingers all season at 1.4 attacking points per game. Realistically, points-wise, you could be getting Mourinho team than Chelsea's defence will let Mahrez score. Finally, Liverpool's entire offence. Daniel Sturridge broke his hypochondria this week, and as a result will miss the rest of the season. Fortunately for Liverpool fans, the festive season ends at the start of January, so they only have to wait until just after New Year's for the shards of glass formerly known as Daniel Sturridge to return, and convince Liverpool fans that they're finally going to win the Champions League again. The rest of their offense is healthy, but this and Klopp's originality means literally anybody can play in any position, and their starting lineup is impossible to predict. They also face West Brom, who have conceded 5 goals in 7 away games, and if Home Alone 2 taught us anything, it's that you can't beat Macaulay away from home. That's us for the week. If you like it, give us a like, throw us to your friends, pass it around Reddit. If you didn't like us, show your friends anyway, and get them to talk trash to us. Cheers, boys.